Welcome to the Cork Creative Podcast. With this podcast, we hope to shine a light on the great work being done in local businesses. If you'd like to learn more, please visit corkcreative.ie. We have been interviewing local creatives and business people over the past year and have listened to some great advice and lessons learned. With that in mind, we have decided to do a series on business supports and delve into the local offerings that can aid both new and established businesses. Today we speak to Arran O'Driscoll, Chair at Clonakilty Credit Union. We chat about the differences between credit unions and banks, the importance of building relationships with members and welcoming them in, how credit unions can help business to manage their day-to-day finances, and how the credit union adapts its strategy in line with the needs of their members. You are very welcome to the Cork Creative Podcast, Arran. How did you get your position in the credit union?
So I've been a credit union member for as long as I can remember. It was my mum who, like a lot of other mothers, would have signed up their children as members. And yeah, I was coming in and out, and I was making my repayments on my car loan. And I knew that the credit union were looking for volunteers for their board. I said I might be interested if they were interested. And the credit union has been really, really good to me. Mm-hmm. I hadn't volunteered previously with any other organisation, and I felt, it was my way of giving back to an organisation who had been very open to me and to my family and to people that I know. And so I thought, look, it's definitely worthwhile. And I had some experience through work along the lines of compliance and risk, and so the rest is kind of history. Really. Once you get involved, then you kind of really get into it and start enjoying it. And it's like the credit union is good to so many different people. It gives back to the community at so many different levels. So I think I'm involved now for over 5 or 6 years. Okay. So started off just as a regular board member, and then I was secretary, and now I am chair.
Very good.
For my sins.
Congratulations.
It's I love it. I love the credit union. And you meet an awful lot of different people around the board table. You have, it's got really good representation, male, female, it's good for your CV too. We're always looking for volunteers, at every age level. You need that mix, you need that combination of different points of view, different perspectives around the table. And, it has to be reflective of our common bond. So I would encourage, if anybody is interested, want to become a member, they can get involved at a committee level. They don't necessarily have to go straight to board level. They can dip their toe in the water and say, okay, is this something that I might enjoy? And you might end up really like it and never looking back.
How do you differentiate yourselves from the offerings of banks, and what makes credit unions different, I suppose?
Yeah, I suppose credit unions are distinctly different to banks. The main, I suppose, core difference between banks and credit unions are that banks are for-profit organisations, whereas credit unions are not for-profit financial cooperatives. Credit unions, I suppose, are independent organisations that exist solely for their members. Credit unions have members, not customers, and they're there solely for the benefit of those members. Any income or surplus income that might be generated is given back to the member by way of an interest rebate for borrowers or a dividend for savers. And any surplus income can be put back into the credit union to improve the services that are offered to the credit union members. So there's a lot of other differences, small ones, I suppose, but very important ones. The credit unions are owned by its members, so it's one member, one vote. Credit unions would elect a voluntary board, and they're elected by the members. There are no transaction charges, no hidden fees. There's insurance for loans and for savings. Of course, certain terms and conditions would apply. The main financial offerings that a credit union would offer are similar to banks in terms of savings or loans, but you can repay your loan quicker without any penalty. There's the interest is calculated on the reducing balance, and there's no charge or no penalty if you do decide to say, this week I want to repay an extra 50 if you have the financial means, or if you want to repay the loan in full. That's not held against you. So there are quite a few unique differences, I suppose. what the credit union is all about is welcoming members. We have at least 4 tills open during the week. We're open Monday to Saturday. We're enticing members to visit us, to call into us, to see us, obviously, now that the restrictions have lifted, but we're not pushing people online. We have that service if people need that service. But when, when other institutions are kind of, having long lines, we're are directing people towards the phone or towards the internet, we're opening our doors. So we have, I suppose, a local facility. We know our members, and members have something in common in that they have a unique common bond in that they can be a member of the credit union if they're living or working in the general area of the credit union. So yeah, there's some unique differences there, I suppose. Like, we've been nominated for or received the best customer experience in the last 7 years, and that's a standard that all credit unions have maintained, and it's one that we constantly aim to kind of strive towards. So yeah, and if there is any change in a borrower's circumstances, a member find repayments difficult, they can always contact us here, and we can, engage with credit control department and to extend the term of the loan. So we're open to talking to our members, hearing what's going on for them, and if we can make things easier. Or, a lot of people are under a lot of financial pressure the last few years, I suppose, and it's all about, I suppose, talking. We have a unique situation where we want to talk to people. We want to sit down with them and hear what's going on with them and what their needs are. So that's pretty much
the main difference. Yeah. I know, like, I definitely feel like the banks kind of tend to be pushing people towards online. Like, you go in the door and you're like going, okay, where's the staff, Whereas with the credit union, it's very much a case of opening up your doors. And even just for me personally, having the Saturday opening, like, I still like to put money into my account or my kids' accounts, and I still like to be able to come into a branch, and I don't want to feel like I'm doing something wrong by coming into engaging with a member of staff or asking a question. And I suppose that openness is very useful for businesses as well. And I the way that you touched on there about being able to repay loans for some businesses, I suppose starting out, it might be very seasonal, and they might have an injection of cash at one particular point in time, and that it would be handy that they'd be able to pay off money towards a loan. Like, that's a big, I would think, incentive for businesses.
Yeah, well, look, everybody's situation is different, and I suppose that's what we hone in on. And you don't find out what people's situations are until you talk to them and listen to them and see what their needs are. There's a lot of seasonal work here in Clonakilty, and there's different demands, even farming and receiving, their checks at different times of the year, and they might be under pressure at certain times, and they might be more flahool at other times, like us all. It's all about budgeting, really, and just being organised and being ready and having that open communication with staff here, in particular credit control. That's what they're there for, to make arrangements and to come to an arrangement that suits. I suppose another thing that makes credit unions unique is a facility where somebody can nominate on their account. Credit unions have a nomination facility whereby members over the age of 16 can nominate who is to receive the property of their accounts upon death. Having a nomination means that your property left in the credit union up to a maximum of 23,000 will not have to pass through what sometimes is a timely probate or intestacy process. So any amount in excess of 23,000 will form part of your estate. So I suppose that's something that would be well known among members or in the credit union circles, but members actually, it's just a matter of completing a form. Yeah, and it's like that now. It's something that is unique and special to credit unions, and something I'd like to point out.
But I suppose as well, like at that time, like when someone passes away, it can be a difficult process, and if you can make things a little bit easier for family members or loved ones, and if it's just signing a form, isn't it? Yeah. It's so simple, really, isn't it?
It's very, very simple. But if in the event that something does happen, you've made that allowance and you have made that arrangement, and like that, it's very simple. You just come into the credit union, you can ask for a nomination form, and once it's done, it's done. You can always change it, but it's a fantastic facility. Yeah.
Okay, very good. And does each credit union in their own specific geographic area focus on different types of lending to different types of businesses, or like are different credit unions kind of focus maybe towards agricultural or business, or how does it work like that?
Yeah, so I suppose, as I mentioned, credit unions are independent of themselves. You know, they're independent organisations. So the core financial services that we offer here in Clonakilty would be loans and savings. And we would offer a wide range of loans for all different kind of purposes, whether it be car loans, home improvements, education, credit card, you name it. Each credit union would make their own decision on what financial loan packages or savings they would, in terms of interest rates. They have that autonomy. It's up to each credit union what kind of services, and I suppose it depends on what they feel the needs of their members are. In recent years, there has been, a larger offering of kind of different loan packages. For example, you might have come across, or people might have come across, the Cultivate loans. I'm aware that other credit unions in West Cork are offering that package. For example, Bantry Credit Union, Access Credit Union. It's something that we've chosen here at Clonakilty not to pursue for the time being, but that's a decision for, I suppose, the board to take, and whether strategically it suits the direction the credit union wants to go in. But look, when we make a decision, we try and make it in the best interest of our members. So yeah, every credit union would have their own independence in that way, and it depends. It's up to them to put out what they would like to offer their members. But that's a kind of a shifting ground as well. So what you might offer, might change this time next year.
So I suppose, like, if a particular issue affects maybe a community, would the credit union adapt? Like, say, for example, a few years ago when Clonakilty was badly flooded, would the credit union have adapted its processes then? Or
I suppose that was a kind of an overnight kind of reaction, or event. But yes, we would have been there for all of our members if in emergency situations, for sure. Yeah. But I suppose in terms of strategy, it's more of a longer term vision. So that would be maybe over 3 to 5 years, so we're always on hand for any kind of emergency event or situation locally, for sure. I mean, the credit union was there, if somebody's washing machine broke down at home, it was for the smaller loans. It wasn't for, where credit unions are heading now, or where they've moved into in terms of the larger loans. Like, we offer unsecured loans, personal loans up to 70,000. That's a long way from offering loans for the likes of a new washing machine or a dryer
back
or
in
an
the
oven,
day.
But we're there for just the basics. We're there for a Christmas loan if people need it. We're there for a communion loan, or confirmation. So we were always thinking about the larger numbers, but it's actually the smaller loans that are our bread and butter. I know a lot of people that are members of credit unions, because they may have not been successful when they made an application for a loan, a small loan even, to a financial institution. Now that's going back, but we pride ourselves on knowing our members, knowing our community. And yes, now a lot of focus these days is on risk and compliance and data protection, and which are all very, very important. But equally important is knowing who's coming in the door to you and knowing their background. And I mean, that goes a long way. If you know that somebody really needs something and they're of good standing, and they won't let you down, just like the credit union wouldn't let them down, so there's a lot to that personal service and that local level of interaction.
And a person on paper might not be the perfect candidate, but that doesn't mean that they wouldn't repay a loan, I suppose.
Well, you'd have a lot of people or members that would, the first thing they do every week was to repay their credit union loan, because it's so important to them. The credit union would be the last organisation they would let down, because they've known the credit union has been there for them in the past. So there is relationships are a big part of credit unions.
How can you help a business manage their day-to-day finances?
Some of our members would take personal loans for business purposes. So we offer SME loans or business loans up to 60,000 maximum, over a maximum of 7 years. And they would cover the likes of maybe stock, hire purchase, farm machinery, say, for example, bridging finance, legal fees, bank loans, loans for VAT, machinery, you name it. Again, all of our business loans are provided on a kind of a personal loan basis, but for a business purpose.
What type of business loans do you provide, and what documentation do you require?
So, as mentioned, we offer the business or SME loans, and repayments in those can be made on a weekly, fortnightly or monthly basis. The documentation required, like everything else, there's always needs. So a notice of assessment or an F11, 3 months recent business and personal bank statements, and 2 years business accounts.
Okay.
So loans greater than 25,000, they must provide a comprehensive business plan and projections. We found that our SME loans are very good performers. Like all our borrowing members, we find that, again, they're very good with engaging with us. And again, look, during difficult times, we noticed that particularly during COVID, when everybody had to shut down and people had loans out for you name it, but they didn't have the income to. So look, there was, arrangements put in place to monitor those, to constantly keep up the communication with those members, reassure them, and that offered reassurance to us as well.
And what trends in business lending have you noticed during the pandemic, and is this now changing as the economy reopens?
I suppose the main change that we noticed was the actual reduction in loans being taken out, because there was less of a need for them. So that had an impact on us here as a credit union. But businesses were closed for such a long time. Now with restrictions opening, there is demand is resurfacing, and there's different needs as well, and a lot of people used COVID as a time to kind of change direction. They might have thought of a different idea, or they might have come up with a new business of their own, or they might have been out of work and decided to diversify or to try a different career path. So, it kind of, I suppose, led to a lot of creative thinking as well, and new ideas. So there's a lot of that there too.
It was a time for reassessment.
Yeah, look, a lot of people were out of work, particularly in the catering industry, and, people that were usually busy, hairdressers, you name it. People who are ordinarily used to being very, very busy found themselves, at home and a lot of time to think, and would have decided, okay, try something different. So you could have certainly have seen that.
I suppose as well during the pandemic, like we always think about the businesses that had to reassess, but you don't actually think that often of the business supports there that have to actually reassess as well, because there's no longer people, as you say, taking out loans. So you had to kind of reassess how you did business as well, and manage that.
For sure. Like as I mentioned earlier on, our loans that we would have relied upon, the likes of weddings, the construction industry had closed down. There's holiday loans, car loans. People weren't going anywhere or doing anything. There were no occasions, so it was interesting and challenging at the same time. But then you saw a lot of people coming back, and like home improvement loans, they just skyrocketed. The people found themselves needing that extra bit of space at home for an office, or they were sick of working on the kitchen table, or they were looking at the same walls all the time. They wanted new curtains, or they wanted to finally put in the patio that they felt that was essential. And so home improvement loans, really, we would have been lost for them, and still we're very lucky to have them, and car loans as well. So it's funny, you saw what you saw just disappear overnight, and then something replacing it. Now we see a wedding loan, and we're as happy as Larry, because we know things are coming back to normal, and we're saying, God, who's getting married? So it's great, but COVID was very challenging. Like we, as a credit union, we rely on the loans that we give out to our members. The interest rates are just really, really poor at the moment, so it's very hard to make any money on any investments. So the only way that credit unions can actually make money is by increasing the level of loans that they're issuing. So it's important for us that we keep our loans at a high level at the moment, at least until interest rates turn around and we can make something out of the investments that we decide upon during the year.
Okay. And what advice in terms of financing would you give entrepreneurs starting out with their business idea?
Okay, I suppose the best advice would be to make sure you have a comprehensive business plan. Do your research, talk to people who've done it before, shop around for financing options, and set a budget, be realistic. And the one that would stand out to us, and I mentioned it earlier, in particular for loans greater than 25,000, a business plan is essential. That's the kind of rock, I suppose, that you kind of have to base yourself on, and look around, shop around, the same as what you would do for if you're buying a car, or, to see what the best options and best rates, repayment facilities that are there. So, yeah.
Very good. Thanks so much, Arran, for taking the time to chat to us today on the Cork Creative Podcast. If you want to learn more about how the credit union can help you, you can find links on corkcreative.ie.